So let's talk about all the books that I've read by Lauren Rowe. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Charles from the channel Books on Stereo, and I'm here to talk about all the Lauren Rowe books that I have read. So the way this type of review will work is I'll go through each of the books, then can give you my overall thoughts on Lauren Rowe's work since I read pretty much all of her books. So I will preface this review just so things don't get too confusing. The only books that I haven't read by Lauren Rowe are her Jocelyn Cat trilogy. Other than those 3 books, I've read all of her other books. First, we're going to start off with her standalones, and then we're going to go into her series, which all kind of take place in one interconnected world. So all Lauren Rowe's standalones take place in the Misadventures series, and the Misadventures series is just a huge long collection of novels written by different authors that are all complete standalones. So you do not have to read all 50 books in the series. You can only read, if you want to, the books that you're interested in. So up first we have Misadventures of a College Girl, and in this one we follow our main heroine who just got into college and she is still a virgin, so she goes to her first college party and then just finds a random dude who happens to be our hero and basically tries to ask him if he can help her lose her V card. And that's the start of this story. Now this one is really funny, really cute, really humorous. This one gives you a really great taste of what Lauren's writing style is like. I absolutely love this one. The banter, the humor was all there. The steam was a little bit on the light side for me, but overall I did enjoy it and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Up next we have Misadventures on a Rebound, and in this one we follow our heroine. She's on her way to her high school graduation, or reunion, I should say her high school reunion, not graduation. She finds out that her fitness trainer boyfriend was cheating on her, so now her plans of bringing her boyfriend to the high school reunion to basically get revenge on all the people that treated her. She was a loser in high school, is now basically down the tube, and then she finds this dude at this bar on the way to the reunion. I don't know why I keep on saying graduation, and the dude that she meets is our hero. Now this one has a lot more twists and turns. The book is not very long. The audiobook is probably like around 5 hours. And this one has so many plot twists and turns, it will make your head explode. There are some kinks in this one that I just absolutely loved, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Then we probably have my favorite Lauren Rowe book of all time. This is Misadventures on a Night Shift. And in this one we follow our heroine. She's basically been in love with this rock star ever since she was like in college. And in present day, she is working at a hotel. She's working the night shift when that said rock star, who happens to be our hero, walks into the lobby, and it's their romance. Now this one is probably the steamiest Lauren Rowe book I have ever read, and I absolutely live for it. This one was so good. There was like some voyeurism kinks involved in this one. There's some role playing as well, and oh my goodness, this one was like chef's kiss perfection. 5 out of 5 stars. Now, like I said, the Misadventures series as a whole, she only has 3 books that have been published in this series. And I think these are a really great place if you want to get started with Lauren Rowe. You don't have to be too invested. You can just read one standalone contained story, just so you can get like a little bit of a taste of Lauren Rowe's writing before deciding if you want to go into her interconnected series, which we will be talking about next. Now, I would say for her interconnected series, the best place to start with is a Jocelyn Cat trilogy, which I haven't read. But if you want to know how Jocelyn Cat's trilogy ties into the rest of the series, Cat is one of the siblings of the Morgan brothers, which the Morgan brothers have their own series. And then from that series, you definitely get even more connections to a record label. I'll explain this as we go through the books, but if you want to start in the true starting place, I would recommend the Jocelyn Cat trilogy first, and then I would recommend you go on to the Club series. Now in the Club series, this is a very hard book to describe without giving it all away. This is a trilogy, and this one we follow we don't follow Cat. Actually, the heroine of this book is Cat's best friend, and I believe our hero in this book is actually related to Josh. I believe they're brothers. So that's how these 2 books are connected. And this one we follow our hero, who basically just loves giving women pleasure, you can say. He finds out that there's this sex club where you can basically write and submit your desires, and then you pay a hefty fee, and then you can just basically live out your desires. And now our heroine is actually one of the people that intakes those applications. She basically gets so turned on by his application that she ends up reaching out to him, and is the start of their romance. Now, I will have to say, this is probably my least favorite series out of all Lauren Rowe's books. It is a little bit bait and switch, a little bit to me. He kind of promises like really raunchy like steamy, like sex club series, and it's not 100% that. I would say for the first book in the trilogy, it definitely is that until probably around the 90% mark, and then you just kind of take this really weird detour that kind of distracts you from the premise that you were actually promised. So I actually gave this whole trilogy probably like a 1 or a 2 star. It wasn't my favorite, just because I had different expectations going into this book, but if you know what you're getting when you go into this book, I think that'll help you kind of like temper your expectations so you're not disappointed. Because this one I thought was poised to be like her steamiest trilogy because hello sex club, but then the last 2 books in the trilogy really kind of just went like, whoop, whoop, we're not even going in that raunchy direction anymore. We're doing like this whole secret plot that I can't tell you about that for me didn't quite work for me. Now let's get into probably Lauren Rowe's most famous series, and that is the Morgan Brothers series. Now these series are all complete standalones. They all follow one of the 5 brothers, but you also see cameos from Kat in these books, and her relationship with Josh is very much covered in these books. So if you do not want to be spoiled for anything that happens with Josh and Kat, I recommend that you go read their trilogy before diving into the Morgan Brothers trilogy, into the Morgan Brothers series. Now, for the Morgan Brothers series, you can read any of the books in any order that you would like. They are complete standalones, but if you read in order, you definitely get teases and callbacks to other characters in previous books as you go along throughout the series. Now, in the first book, Hero, we follow one of the Morgan brothers, and this one is actually a first responder, and we find out in the beginning of the book that he is trying to save a baby from a fire, and he gets trapped in that fire and then wakes up in the hospital, where he meets his physical therapist, who happens to be our heroine. Our heroine kind of comes to the story with a little bit of baggage as well. This is in the prologue, so it's not a spoiler. She was actually married with 2 kids, and her husband was actually a first responder her husband was a first responder and was a cop and actually got killed in the line of duty. And it's their romance. So I absolutely love this one. You have the single parent trope, the second chance at love kind of again trope, and this one was so incredibly cute, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It was cute in some moments, but it was also really sad at times, but it really kind of balanced the two so you weren't like reading the book and completely sobbing throughout the whole entire book. And I absolutely love this one. This was a great start. Then up next you have Captain, and this is book 2 in the series, and in this one our heroine basically goes to a club with her friend, and she, I believe, just got out of a long-term relationship or something like that, and her friend is trying to hook her up with some random dude in the bar, and the random dude that they select is actually our hero, and it's their romance. Now this one I thought was a little bit funnier, a little bit more humorous, and I love the banter between our 2 characters. This one wasn't as sad as Hero. This was a little bit more lighthearted, but still contained some definitely touching moments. But overall I really like this one as well, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Then up next we have Ball, Peen, Hammer, and in this book we follow another one of the Morgan brothers, and this Morgan brother is a stripper, and it's his relationship to, I believe, a sister or a relative to Reed Rivers, I should say. I'll explain that as we go. I'll explain a little bit more that connection when we get to the final book in the series. And this one was really fun. It was really humorous. His character is pretty funny. Like if you imagine Magic Mike, but actually more funny, you would get this character. And I absolutely love this one. This is probably my favorite in the series, even though I still gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. But definitely it's one of my favorites in the series because the humor is there, the steam is on point, and I absolutely love it. Up next we have Mr. Bodyguard, and this is book 4 in the series. And in this one we technically are not following a Morgan brother. We're actually following the best friend of the Morgan brother in the previous book, Ball, Peen, Hammer, and it's Xander's relationship with Aloha. Now Aloha is a pop star, and Xander basically gets hired to be her bodyguard. So this is a bodyguard romance. And in this book we get a little bit more connections and more setup to what the next book in this world are going to be, because Aloha is actually signed to Reed Rivers Records, who later on gets his own book, and you kind of see more stories being told at the record label. And I really did enjoy this one. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was really fun, really cute, gave me all those bodyguard vibes, and I absolutely love this one as well. Now in the final book of the series, which is called Rockstar, we basically go back to the last Morgan brother. So I was technically wrong. There's only really 4 Morgan brothers if you count Xander as like an honorary Morgan brother, but he's basically so close to the family that he basically is like another one of the Morgan brothers. And in this one we follow Dax, who was actually a rock star, and his romance with Reed Rivers' sister. She's a heroine in this book, and it's their romance. Absolutely love this one. And this one gives you the most tease for like what's coming next in this world, because you definitely see that Lauren Rowe kind of is steering away from just like normal contemporary romance. It's kind of delving into like the rock star music business type of a world, if that makes any sense. I really said that wrong. But we're kind of veering into more of a music-based world. And so I absolutely love this one. I gave this one another 4 out of 5 stars. It was really fun, really cute, really sweet, really touching, and I just love the romance between our main 2 characters in this one. Now, after you finish the Morgan Brothers series, you're probably wondering, where do I go to next? So then next you want to start with the Bad Liar Trilogy. I think that's what the trilogy is called. Now, in this trilogy, we basically follow, remember I mentioned the character Reed Rivers? This is his series. So he has 3 books, and it's his relationship with a journalist. And the way the first book starts out is that our journalist heroine is going to this event where Reed Rivers is talking, and they basically kind of like make eye contact, and they have this instant connection, and that's the start of our romance. Now for this trilogy, you do have to read them in order. So book 1 is Bad Liar. 2 is Beautiful Liar, and then book 3, which is the final book in the trilogy, is called Beloved Liar. Like I said, you do have to read these books in order, so the first 2 books in this trilogy I gave a 5 out of 5 stars to each of them, and then the third book was not my favorite, but I get what the author was going towards, but for me, it didn't quite work with me. So I can't really tell you about what didn't work for me, but essentially it introduces a new conflict that really didn't need to be in there in the first place. And that's just my preference, because I was just really into this whole enemies to lovers dynamic that these 2 characters had going on. And this third book kind of took like a really weird detour and then got overly sentimental, and I was kind of missing that intensity and that chemistry between our 2 main characters. So that's why I personally didn't like the third book. I don't think it's bad. I think this is another one of those cases where I expected different things out of the final book than was actually going to happen, if that makes any sense. So I think with a lot of Lauren Rowe's books, I expect something that completely differs from what I actually get, and then I have a hard time reconciling the 2. But they're not, none of her books are bad. All her books are really, really good. It's just that sometimes I have to kind of adjust my expectations before going into it, because I'm just like, whoa, 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 wait. This is not what I wanted. But it's still good. But I'm going to be petty because it's not what I wanted. So overall, I love this trilogy, and you can always start with this trilogy and then go back and read the Morgan Brothers series, but it is nice to have read the Morgan Brothers series first before delving into the Reed Rivers trilogy. Now, after you finish the Reed Rivers trilogy, you probably think, is there any more books that I can read in this world? And yes, they are. And so the next book that you can read in this world is Smitten, and this one actually follows our heroine, our hero. Our heroine is actually the sister of the heroine in the Reed Rivers trilogy, and in this book you definitely see where these 2 stories intersect, because there is a portion of this book that takes place during the same times of the events of the first book in the Reed Rivers trilogy. And this one is so sweet. This is one where it's basically like your nice guy romance, and this dude is such a nice dude, and this romance was just so cute. And the cool thing about this book is that our hero, I believe our hero or heroine, they write a song about one another, and you actually get to listen to that song if you pick up the audiobook, which is really, really cool. So I really love this one, and I love this whole kind of music-centric place that Lauren Rowe is kind of taking us into this world, into that music kind of scene, because I'm absolutely loving it. It's so good, and I can't wait to see who else will get their stories told in this world, because now that we're kind of in this music business scene, there are such a wide array of characters that she can choose from, and I really want to know who she's going to write from next. So that is it. That is all the Lauren Rowe books that I have read. Hopefully my explanations and my thoughts make sense to you. If it doesn't, let me know down in the comment section down below, and I'm happy to discuss with you guys. So now let's give my recommendations on whether you should read Lauren Rowe. Now I would say Lauren Rowe is a definite must-read author. Now I will have to say this. If you want contemporary romances that are on like the steamier side, like we're talking like Katie Roberts or Kenya Wright. Technically Kenya Wright is more like dark romance, but still contemporary romance. Then you may be disappointed by these books, but if you like your rom-coms with a little bit of like darkness mixed in, not complete darkness, because these books are not like a soft fest, but these books do deal with some like weighty issues throughout each of the books. So there is that little touch of realism in all these books. And I would say in general, if you love rom-coms that have like a moderate level of steam, Lauren Rowe is going to be your jackpot. And if you don't like a ton of steam in your books, Lauren Rowe actually fits the bill because there are explicit like steamy scenes on page, but they're not overly long. So if you're not into that, you can always just skip over it and then just continue on reading. So I can't stress how much I love Lauren Rowe's books, and I think you guys will like them as well. Lauren Rowe is actually an audiobook narrator, so pretty much for all her other books except for the Rivers trilogy and Smitten are all narrated by her, and she's absolutely a fantastic narrator. And yeah, I actually think like these books work better on audio because especially for like the songs that get introduced in later books, you actually get to hear the song when you're listening to the audiobook, which I think is so incredibly cool. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Let me know down in the comment section down below if you have read Lauren Rowe or if you're going to check out Lauren Rowe after watching this video. And I'll catch you guys with a brand new video. Peace.